So let's take a few minutes to go over two really important areas that affect the daily classroom environment and family communication. And this stems from our conversation around health and safety, these past conversations. So we do have behavior expectations of kiddos, and it's important that you know that as a family. And then we'll move into custody agreements, which is really part of the behavior of the family unit. And what Nourish in our partnership with you, what we will and will not tolerate is important for you to know as a family. So at Nourish, we really do believe in guiding behavior with love and empathy and respect. And that goes for everyone. That goes for our staff, that goes for our educators, that goes for our families. We are always going to lead with that empathy and respect. And our goal is not just to manage the behavior of children, it's to help them develop the self-discipline and emotional regulation skills in a supportive and developmentally appropriate way. You've heard developmentally appropriate so many times over these videos, and that's because that is what we're really good at. We're meeting the child or the adult where they are, and looking at the ways to scaffold their growth within this. And for this part, we're talking about behavior specifically. So we start with two main tools. Positive reinforcement, which means we're noticing and affirming when children are doing the right thing, doing the thing that is keeping their body safe, their friend's body safe, and being respectful of the environment around them, right? Those are the big things. Are you safe, your body? Is your friend being safe, their body? And are we being respectful and respectful of the environment around us? Are we hurting any chairs, hurting any toys? Those are the things that we're looking at when it comes to behavior, and trying to guide them in the way of being respectful and having empathy and respect for those around them. The other tool that we use is positive redirection. So we gently remove a child from a situation that they may be starting to spiral into negative or disrespectful space with their body, the bodies of people around them, or the environment. And we move them towards a more appropriate activity. Honestly, 8 times out of 10, that redirection is really going to help. The other tool that we use a lot is moving through the emotional experience of what's happening, especially for our older kids, but our younger kids too, starting to get them to verbalize what it might be that they're needing or desiring in that moment. So if they're biting, if they're scratching when they're younger, if they're being really rough with a toy, what's happening behind that? And our teachers are really great at moving into that connection to understand, even before they might redirect. They want to understand, right? So a lot of curiosity, a lot of openness, a lot of non-judgment is coming out of our teachers in those moments. Importantly, we never use shame. Shame really doesn't work for discipline. Shame moves children into compliance and fear, which actually exasperates a lot of behaviors. So we work really hard not to shame kids for much of anything, especially things that are developmentally appropriate. So we don't utilize negative consequences for eating or sleeping or potty learning. Those are not discipline issues. Those are developmental processes, and we treat them as such. When it comes to behavior, we really work hard not to use shame. Either we use the redirection, the positive reinforcement, and the emotional connection. Sometimes children might need to reset, plain and simple. Sometimes I need to reset, plain and simple. And in those moments, there might be a little separation of what might be happening, not as a punishment, but really as a tool to come back to calm and re-engage. And especially if an adult can be close to them during that reset to help co-regulate and move back into that regulative stance. That's the best intention we have. So if a child needs a break from the group, they are given space to breathe. They are given space to re-regulate, reset that nervous system. And that goes all ages, infants all the way up, because if you learn it really early, you'll keep it most of your life. And we really believe in staff members and adults in the building getting on the same level as the child. When a staff member is standing tall above a young child, it can be very intimidating, especially when they're either correcting them or disciplining them. So our goal is to move down to eye level so that power dynamic stays very, very close and connected. It's actually to lower our voice, not raise our voice, lower our voice, and really get into that curious, kind space, connected space with a child. and understand the emotional communication we're giving when we go down to eye level. It's very anti-power. It's saying, I'm with you. I'm in this with you. And that is so important, because when we move down to that level, then we can help kids move out of whatever behavior they're in, because we're with them in it. Can't do it when you're having power over them. If you do, you can get to compliance at best. And compliance works short term, but not long term. So if the adult cannot immediately provide the support, the child will remain within sight and hearing and will be checked in on frequently. So we also recognize that every child has tough days. If there is something going on at home, like lack of sleep or a change in routine or something happening in the family, please let us know, because that context really helps us care for them with a greater understanding and patience. And we know that sleep and eating habits really do impact the emotional mood of everyone. So there are some rare situations where behaviors really do become unsafe and disruptive to the learning environment overall. And we do follow some disciplinary policy that you do need to be aware of. First, if again, we're going back to those three things: harming the self, harming the people around you, meaning the teachers or the other children in the class, or harming the environment, the physical space. So first, we'd have a written warning is sent home to a parent. And again, this is probably a phone call. This is something that we'll talk to you face-to-face about, and then send home an email or a bright wheel message about the conversation. So you know that there's something happening, something emotional is happening with your child that is impacting the environment of care. And second, if the behavior continues and we're unable to really meet the child where they're at in that moment, we're going to, the teachers of the class, potentially someone on the leadership team, is going to request a conference with the parents, the teachers, the leadership team, to make sure that we are all on the same page. That is the point. We are all working together with the child. And then we're thinking and being curious about this behavior that's coming up. If the problem persists and it seriously impacts others' safety of learning, there may be a dismissal from the program. And we hope that we don't get to that. We hope that the adults are able to work together to scaffold this child's experience to be safe for everyone. But sometimes it happens that we might not be the right fit for this child's emotional needs. And that's where it's going to come down to, is the question of, is our environment the right fit for this child's emotional needs? Because we want the best for the child. We're not going to be thinking about Nourish. We're going to be thinking about what's best for this child. Is there a space in the community that might be a better fit for them? And our hope is that it doesn't come to that, but ultimately we will make that decision should we need to. So let's talk a little bit about custody, because as I said in the behavior part, if something's happening at home, if there's a shift in the home life or something that's coming up, children may be reacting to that transition. Even the transition from summer into fall or fall into winter, our rhythms are impacted. So noting that, moving through custody experiences for both adults in the custody arrangement as well as the children in the arrangement can be really dysregulating to a nervous system. And our goal is to help the whole family as much as possible. So noting that this topic, requires clarity and compliance. We just must be all on the same page here. So if there are any custody issues involving a child in our care, we do have to have a court-issued document on file that clearly states who has legal custody and who is authorized to pick up the child. By law, we cannot deny access to either parent unless we have official documentation to deny that access. So if your family has a custody arrangement, joint custody, supervised visits, restricted pickup, it is your responsibility as the parent to provide a copy of that court order to Nourish. And it's your responsibility as the parent to inform us immediately if anything changes during the school year. Our director and the staff members will strictly follow what is outlined in those legal agreements. We do not and cannot make custody-related decisions without valid legal documents. So that's really important to understand. So these are pretty critical policies. They impact the child. And we know that with shared commitment to these guidelines and clear communication, which we're always looking for, we get to create this safe, loving environment for every child at Nourish and every child at home. So if you have questions or need clarification on either of these policies, please reach out to anyone on the leadership who can help you out.